Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. This is a book summary of The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. Why not boil down the essence of who we are to just 18 simple rules? The adage, knowledge is power, has been overused to the point of being trite. However, when it comes to better understanding ourselves and others, there is no such thing as too much information. Robert Greene is an American author who has written 6 international bestsellers on a variety of controversial topics. In The Laws of Human Nature, he delves into the complexities of being human and reveals that we'll lead more controlled lives if we understand our true natures. When we are aware of our desires and impulses, we can control our actions and make better decisions. Greene provides 18 laws that cover the conscious and unconscious aspects of our identity and self-image, group behavior, our actions and reactions, and needs and desires in order to give us a comprehensive look into the human psyche. Those aspects of our personalities that are seen as flaws or weaknesses can be openly discussed and evaluated. We must accept the fact that we are all flawed and capable of engaging in harmful behaviors. According to Greene, living more authentic and empathic lives is possible when we own up to our flaws and are honest and open about them. As a result, we can use these laws to our advantage because we can learn to read the people around us by genuinely understanding the human condition. Let's take a quick look at gender differences. What do you see in yourself, and do you think others see it the same way? Gender is a fundamental determinant of who we are, and it's a fairly rigid one at that. A very formulaic way of acting results from viewing gender as a binary. We all have traits that are both masculine and feminine, but gender is not set in stone. These traits are the result of a combination of genetics, environment, and the things we've learned. There is a widespread belief that if you don't like the way you look, you have to cover it up. Aside from the stigmas that have been created around gender performance and acting outside the norms of gender normality, our author suggests a move towards gender fluidity in order to become more diverse individuals. Gender isn't a roadblock, it's an opportunity to learn and grow. It is argued that the more gender fluid we are, the better we will be at social interactions and the more we will develop critical thinking and problem-solving abilities. Despite the fact that we have no control over which generation we're born into, the zeitgeist has a profound effect on our values and ethos. As an example, what are your grandparents' core values, and do they act in a way that's consistent with their time period? How are your parents and grandparents different? Compared to your parents, how are you different? Finally, what do you know about the current zeitgeist of the younger generation? People are easy to categorize based on their generation. Isn't it amazing how often we label millennials, snowflakes, boomers, hippies, and Generation X's with specific actions and behaviors? There is, however, a sense of collective power. Changing our perceptions of the world can take a generation. The ability to see the past, present, and future with greater clarity is a benefit of generational awareness. In your mind, how do you want to be perceived by the outside world? Self-awareness is a difficult thing to attain because of the way our identities are fragmented. Many of us adopt personas, or wear specific masks, in order to appear in a particular way. We all have our own distinct personalities, and we tend to cultivate them in order to look our best. Obviously, if we're acting a certain part, then everyone else in the room is, too. Impression management is a term coined by Irving Goffman to describe this type of role-playing. People's perceptions of us are shaped by how we present ourselves to the world, whether consciously or unconsciously. In the end, we're all just actors rehearsing for a specific role. Impression management and how we negotiate our behavior and actions can help us understand others. In the end, the lesson is that we should never take things at face value. Developing our ability to read body language and nonverbal cues from others is critical to our success in the workplace. Understanding human nature means realizing that everyone has different roles to play at various points in their lives. Observing nonverbal cues like facial expressions and body language are just as important as paying attention to what is said. People's actions can be broken down into 3 types. It is possible to tell a lot about a person based on their dislikes or likes, their dominance or submission, and their ability to fool others. Intuition plays a big role in assessing others. Developing one's persona. To assess someone's character, how do you go about doing so? Is this based on your reputation, or a judgment you've made in the past? Human nature is guided by character, which is influenced by genetics, upbringing, and the experiences we've had in life. Because of the way we've been raised, our personalities are hardwired into us. How we handle ourselves in various situations, how we interact with others, and how adaptable we are all factors in how we are perceived. Knowing our character traits helps us to improve ourselves on a regular basis. We can learn to read other people's characteristics once we've recognized our own. High-pressure situations can often reveal a person's true character the most clearly because of the stress they are under. Taking on additional responsibilities or dealing with new people can lead to high-stress situations. Strong-willed individuals are nimble and receptive to criticism. Developing a strong character requires us to examine our own behavior in the face of adversity and the way we interact with others. We need to be aware of the presence of toxic characters in our lives, but we should quickly distance ourselves from them. A person who causes a lot of drama or has unrealistically high expectations may have crossed your path. Toxic characters can also be people who talk about their big ideas over and over again, even though they have never achieved any success with them. Identifying toxic people enables us to learn how to avoid or defeat them. Recognizing and accepting the force's dark side. Are there any dark corners of your personality that you'd like to explore? Realizing that we all have a shadow side is an important step in developing into a complete person. Repressing dark feelings and hiding aspects of ourselves that don't fit in with the persona we want to portray is common. Making a point to show the negative side is often at odds with what we're trying to portray. However, it's in the shadowy corners of our minds that we find our best ideas. In order to achieve a healthy symbiosis between our light and dark sides, we must first learn as much about ourselves as possible. If you've ever been told that you need to first love yourself before you can truly love others, you're not alone. We need to keep our narcissism in check if we want to be able to empathize with others. All of us have some degree of narcissism, but some are more extreme than others. There is a wide range of narcissistic behavior, and in order to become more empathetic and generous, we must examine our own tendencies. Teamwork. When you're around other people, how do you act? Competitiveness is a natural trait in most people. We also tend to become defensive when we are pushed to the limit, challenged, or criticized. Group dynamics can be better understood by recognizing that people are hardwired to be defensive and resistant to change. Consequently, we must examine our own defense mechanisms and learn how to deal with people who are prone to be defensive. We can then begin to have an impact on those around us. It's not about making a good first impression or being charming that makes someone influential. Focusing on those in our immediate vicinity is the most effective method of influencing. We gain a lot of respect by diverting attention away from ourselves and focusing on others. People require a sense of safety and acceptance. Many people say they don't care what other people think about them, but this is rarely the case. When you join a group, you gain the support and validation of your peers. Most of us want to believe that we are capable and knowledgeable, that our character is strong and endearing, and that we are in control of our lives. As soon as we've settled on our personas, we want the opinions of others to validate our own assumptions about ourselves. It's human nature to seek validation from others for our positive traits. The dynamics of a group can be difficult if we don't feel validated or supported. There are also ways to improve one's ability to communicate effectively with others. Listening is a skill that can be improved upon by each of us. It's also important to remember that our moods can have a significant impact on others in group situations. In the same way that laughter is contagious, so too are feelings of anxiety, irritability, and stress. It's a well-known saying that we're quick to criticize but slow to praise, so remember to validate your co-workers. At the same time, it is your desire that you be a person who pays attention to your accomplishments and talents rather than your doubts and fears. The stubbornness of individuals is often brought out in groups. Because you can't control your feelings, you should try to figure out where they're coming from. When people feel they aren't being heard, they tend to turn to rebellion and take matters into their own hands. Envy follows a person's ego wherever they go. This brings us to the ego, which is the root of all evil. When was the last time you heard the phrase "don't compare yourself to others"? Because we've been told it so many times, it's not a surprise that this type of behavior is so ingrained in human nature. Because they spur us on to greater achievement, comparisons can be fruitful on occasion. We're inspired to push ourselves even harder in order to win this competition. Comparisons, on the other hand, can make us feel inferior, which is demotivating. When people make comparisons, it often leads to resentment and envy. We've all felt jealous at some point in our lives, but understanding how we act when we're envious is difficult. While some people go overboard to make up for their feelings, others may try to hide their resentment behind subtle jabs. There are those who use humor as a form of deflecting, while others resort to blaming others or sulking. Jealousy can take many forms. The ability to pick up on nonverbal cues from others is enhanced by becoming adept at reading facial microexpressions. You may notice a glimmer of disappointment in their eyes if you tell them that you've just landed a new job or met a new love interest. In contrast, it's a good idea to be on the lookout for Schadenfreude, which is the joy that comes from seeing someone else in pain. Other signs include gossip, rumors, criticism, and unjustified attacks. It's common for people who are jealous to feel entitled to better outcomes and results because of their jealousy. You'll be able to spot this type of behavior more easily if you're familiar with the range of insecurities that jealous people experience. Instead of comparing yourself to others, you should compete with yourself and set goals that have nothing to do with the people around you. Envy can be alleviated by shifting your attention away from yourself and toward those who are less fortunate. Another form of empathy is to feel happy for others. As a result, cultivate a sense of purpose, and admire human greatness, beauty, and accomplishment. The key to success is to be flexible and adaptable. Awareness of how we change when we're in a group helps us better understand our own personalities. Does anyone in particular have an effect on the way we perceive the world and how we act? The human condition necessitates that we cultivate groups and communities of belonging. Groups, on the other hand, can have a significant impact. We need to be critical of group decisions and our own desire to fit in and be accepted as a member of the group. When we're in a group, our emotions are cultivated and enhanced, and we're under pressure to do our best. We can see how powerful groups are if we consider culture, rules and codes, factionalization, and so on. Being a group leader necessitates an examination of one's own leadership style. It's difficult to win the trust of people because they're usually skeptical or ambivalent about leaders. The only way to gain power is to establish a commanding presence and persuade others of your leadership abilities. You must, however, project the image of someone who is trustworthy, fair, and dedicated to their work. You'll be perceived as an authentic leader if you cultivate trust, vision, unity, and empathy. Genuine people radiate an aura of authority that energizes others around them. In the end, it all comes down to having a common goal. Creating and inspiring the right team is essential if you want to be an effective leader in a group. Be aware of your team's strengths and weaknesses, promote equality, and keep lines of communication open at all times. I make my decisions based on what I believe. In most cases, it is not a natural instinct to think before you act. Emotional and irrational human behavior is common. Emotional awareness can help us avoid acting irrationally because we can better understand our feelings. We can't always act rationally, but we can train ourselves to do so more often. We must be cognizant of our own biases if we are to act more rationally. Bias can take a variety of forms, be innate or learned, and influence our worldview. A cognitive bias, such as confirmation bias, is when we selectively choose facts that support our pre-existing beliefs. We can have prejudices against certain people or groups, as well as a belief in our own superiority to others. We can learn to deal with our biases once we've identified them. Examining the things that irritate or compel us to engage in certain behaviors can also help us become more rational. How do you react when you're under a lot of stress? What are some of the people in your life that make you particularly irritated or angry? Regaining perspective is critical. The news, trends, opinions, and so on, are all too easy to get caught up in. We're drawn to drama, and all the noise obscures what's really important. In order to succeed, we must have the ability to step back and see the big picture. Isn't it all about attitude? The way we perceive the world around us is referred to as our attitude. What is the best way to describe your outlook on life? Having a negative outlook on life is the best way to ruin our chances for happiness. In order to make a difference in our lives, we must alter our outlooks. It's hard to shake the victim mentality or the tendency to place blame on others, but it's essential if we want to move forward. The most successful people are those who have a positive outlook on life. The good news is that a person's attitude is much more malleable than their character. It's time to think about the things that make you feel good and bad. Things that have a positive or negative impact on you will be easier to handle when you know what they are and how you react to them. The best way to begin is to change our perspective on the world and look for opportunities rather than failures. In addition, we must foster a thirst for new information and perspectives. We can alter our perceptions of difficulties and setbacks by approaching each day as if it were a brand new adventure. Never lose sight of the fact that your outlook on life has an impact on your health, your relationships, and every other aspect of your life. It is critical to maintain a positive frame of mind, but we must also be aware of our own limitations. When we reach our goals, we tend to lose sight of reality. When we're successful, it's easy to lose perspective and behave irrationally. We all have a tendency to believe that we are more important than we really are, and we need to learn how to rein this in. When you have a strong sense of reality, you realize that there are many factors that contribute to success. There are many factors outside of our control that contribute to our success, such as chance, timing, mentors, and so on. When we are aware of everything that contributes to our success, we will remain rational and grounded. Having a clear sense of purpose is also a factor in determining one's success. We all have a tendency to procrastinate because we're wired that way. As we learn more about ourselves, we gain a better sense of what we're here for. Clarity isn't a state we're always in. On the other hand, it's a rare occurrence for us. Addictions and pleasure-seeking behavior are easier to develop when our goals and objectives are unclear. When we lack direction, we become dissatisfied and turn to temporary pleasures. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to lose sight of why we're doing things in the first place. How many times have you had to reevaluate your career or personal goals? It's normal to feel lost and confused in the midst of constant change and chaos. We must learn to adapt and rely on our own judgment. Learn new skills on a regular basis by assessing your strengths and identifying your true passion. Create a list of specific, attainable goals to help you stay motivated and enthused about your life. Want and refusal. Absence and presence affect us profoundly. The way we react when we have too much or too little of a certain thing is unique. There is a delicate balancing act that must be done in order to maintain interest. If we can't get what we want, we should take advantage of our natural desire for it. It's always a good idea to keep people guessing by keeping our identity a secret. There are some things we should keep hidden and leave to the imagination, like our personalities. The more we give of ourselves, the less interesting we become to others. Things tempt us, and as a result, we create fantasies to fulfill our desires. Our fantasies, on the other hand, often fall short of our expectations. Take advantage of what you've got, but don't get carried away with your fantasies. When we're driven by desire, we're more likely to make poor decisions. Death is yet another factor that has an effect on our choices, or lack thereof. Death is something we want to be in control of, but we tend to ignore the fact that we are mortal most of the time. You've probably never given much thought to how you'll die or what the end will look like. According to Greene, we should all be doing this more frequently. Imagine every detail, even the tiniest ones, focusing on what you hear, what you see and how you feel. To better understand and accept our own mortality, we must focus on the finer points of the image, which we can do by adjusting the lens. We're more cognizant of our limited time on Earth when we have a firm grasp on the concept of death. We are more likely to succeed in our goals when we have a clearer sense of time constraints. In addition, if we accept that death is inevitable, we can work together toward a common goal, because no one is exempt. It also implies that we have the ability to alter our perspectives on the significance of material possessions as well as our attitudes toward suffering. Pain and suffering are temporary, and material possessions don't really matter in the grand scheme of things when we realize we're all going to die at some point. To sum it up, in order to better understand why we act in certain ways, these laws have been put in place. To gain a better understanding of human nature and behavior, more observation is required. We need to pay attention to the clues and cues that people give us in order to figure out what kind of person they are. Knowing this will allow us to take action. We can also avoid or outmaneuver toxic or problematic people with this information. By learning more about our personalities, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves. We have a wide range of identities to choose from because we are complex beings. We can be more rational and composed when we follow the 18 laws. It is much easier for us to become good leaders if we focus on our strengths and provide advice on how to become rounded, empathetic, and focused. This helps us focus on what's important, achieve our goals and pay attention to those sublime moments that fill us with joy and wonder. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.